This year, AMD has made a comeback stronger than ever with their Ryzen lineup of CPUs. Ryzen 7 brought a high-end enthusiast competitor to Intel at the fraction of the cost, while Ryzen 5 also made its mark on the mainstream. And today, I'm here to bring you a review of the Ryzen 3 launch. Did AMD hit the nail on the head with this one? Well, let's get into the review, shall we? First, let's do a little rundown of the CPUs that we're going to be testing today. First up, the Ryzen 3 1300X is a 4-core, 4-threaded CPU coming in with a clock speed of 3.5 GHz and a boost of 3.7, and it will retail for $129 US. The second chip we're going to be testing is the Ryzen 3 1200 with also 4 cores and 4 threads and a clock speed of 3.1 GHz and a boost up to 3.4, and will come in at $20 cheaper than the 1300X at $109. I will be putting the 1300X and 1200 through a series of gaming benchmarks and compare it to its Ryzen 5 brother, the 1500X, which is a 4-core, 8-threaded CPU. I also dabbled a little in overclocking using the Ryzen 3 1200 and honestly got some very interesting results, which we'll talk about later in the video. Keep in mind, due to the hardware that I have access to, this video is going to be mainly numbers based around a test system that I threw together featuring a GTX 1050 Ti, 16GB of DDR4 RAM that I was only able to run at 2133 MHz due to some stupid motherboard issues. Speaking of the motherboard, I ended up going with a Gigabyte AB350 gaming motherboard. The B350 socket is the sweet spot for Ryzen motherboards, and it is the best value for a Ryzen 3 based system, so I thought it would be great to use it in this test. So I guess without any further ado, let's just run those gaming benchmarks first, and then we'll talk about the opinions overall of this lineup. So as you can tell from the gaming benchmarks, in all but one game, the GPU was the bottleneck in the system. The The 1300X and the 1200 in most gaming tasks had some very weird numbers in some of my benchmarks, where actually the 1200 was beating out the 1300X in some of the tests. Don't really know if that was just my fault in certain variables getting messed up or confused, so I decided to drop some of those tests, and that's kind of why I didn't have as many games as I wanted to. But don't worry, there's going to be more tests with these processors coming shortly. In terms of gaming, the 1300X out of the box is definitely the better CPU, but only based on clock speed. The X lineup is supposed to have more overclocking headroom, but to be fair, the Ryzen architecture as is doesn't overclock very well past 4 GHz. I will be doing a dedicated overclocking tutorial also with the 1300X and 1200 coming soon as well using Ryzen Master. It was very easy to do. Speaking of overclocking, I decided to test the 1200's ability to overclock, and at only 1.35 volts, I got it running pretty cool using the Wraith stealth cooler that was included at 3.8 GHz. No issues at all. So I went ahead and ran a gaming test with the Battlefield 1 test that did end up pinning the CPU at 100% on both chips before, and here are the numbers. As you can tell, the 1300X and 1200 are now pretty much identical in terms of gaming performance. It appears that this is another case of the Ryzen 7 lineup, where the 1800X, which was definitely the far superior CPU coming out of the box in terms of clock speed, really still isn't the best value with something like the 1700 that sits there and can be overclocked to the frequencies at the 1800X's value and pretty much do so at a $200 price savings. In this case, out of these two CPUs, I really think the Ryzen 3 1200 is an amazing bang for the buck performer. For $109, you get a true quad-core CPU that really makes the Intel i3 lineup not even in the discussion anymore for most systems. While the PC hardware market as a whole right now is definitely not in the best shape, and with the whole GPU mining craze, I believe this Ryzen 3 and in particular the 1200 gives budget gamers something to look forward to when cards like the RX 570 and 580 come back in stock at great bargain prices, allowing you to create an ultra budget rig using a processor like this and one of those GPUs that allow you to play pretty much most games at 1080p maxed out. So that about wraps things up here, guys. If you like this video, leave a like down below and comment what you think. If you haven't already, follow us on Twitter for more content from the Toasty Bros, and stay tuned for a lot more Ryzen 3 content, because Ryzen 3 is a really awesome bang for the buck value, and I really want to do more stuff with the 1200 and 1300X and put it to the test and maybe a giveaway in the future, so be sure to subscribe to know when that goes live. Hope to see you on the next one, guys. Peace out.